Hello, this is Bwana from Bwana.tv. I want to provide a video response to something that Chris Barillo brought up, and we've been seeing it all over the news, and it's kind of getting old to me personally. I'm like, whatever, man, that's enough. It has to do with the iPhone 4 and the poor reception people are getting, apparently, according to the quote-unquote bars. The kind of reception they're getting if they hold the phone a certain way. Now, let me go through the claim first. Apparently, if you hold the phone in your left hand and the palm of your hand, it covers up the external exposed antenna, you'll lose signal. And some people have reported that you'll drop to zero, and so on and so forth. I can tell you first off, personally, I haven't experienced that on my phone. I've been using it, and I hold it several different ways. And I was looking at how they were holding it, and I don't typically hold it that way when it comes to making calls. And it looks like you really have to have a firm grip on it. So with that said, this is a common issue, and before they even stated that on the blogs and everywhere, I knew that this was a common issue because I experienced it like back in 2000. I had a phone, I think it was around 2000. I had the phone Sony Ericcson T68i, and I believe the antenna was on the top, and the phone was tiny. It was like this small, and my whole hand would cover the phone, and I would cover up the antenna, and because of that, I would drop calls. And I found out online that you can't hold it that way. It's like if you hold it that way, it'll drop calls, you'll lose signal, and I was like, okay, I didn't know that, and I stopped holding the phone like that. It was a tiny phone, so I had to hold it with 2 fingers. I was like, and so I was kind of used to the idea of being aware of where the antenna is on the phone. Now, with that said, it's a legitimate problem. It's apparently available or happening on other phones. I don't know all the phones. I haven't researched that, but I know I've experienced it prior, 10 years ago. So it's kind of crazy that it's getting the attention it is, because it's an old problem. And I think I know why it's getting a lot of attention. Steve Jobs replied to an email, and his email replies are pretty hilarious. He replied to an email stating, basically, don't hold it that way. which is the truth. It's the truth. But I'm kind of like that with Steve. Someone would ask me, hey Bwana, I'm having a problem with my iPhone. Every time I hold it a certain way, I lose reception. You know what I'll tell them? Stop holding it that way. But see, I'm not Apple. So when you're a company, you have responsibility. You have to be tactful in a lot of ways. But if you want a tactful response, here's some words of wisdom. If you want a tactful response, if you want to feel good after response, don't email Steve Jobs. He's not going to make you feel good. He's going to tell you the blunt, hard truth. And I respect him for that. And it is everything Steve Jobs said is true. But to me, the issue is not whether Steve was telling the truth or not, whether he was tactful or not. It's that we have a non-issue getting a lot of attention. And a lot of people are stating this is an Achilles heel of the iPhone. To me, the yellow spot problem is a lot worse than this is. It's a lot worse. But apparently the spots will evaporate, and until they do, to me, it's still a problem until they evaporate. That's a problem. I mean, that's a problem with the screen. But to talk about reception problems, depending on where the antenna is on the phone, that's a known issue with cellular technology, the way the things work. Now, a lot of phones, they have antennas in different spots, and they think about where people hold their phones. Now, granted, Apple could have put more thought into this. I'll admit, they could have put more thought and said, well, maybe we shouldn't put it in the bottom left. Maybe we should put it on the top right, or somewhere that someone's not going to handle the phone. You could say that. But to blow it's like the problem's here, and the proportion meter is like in the roof. And that's my issue with it. It's way out of proportion, and I'm not really helping it by doing this video, so it's kind of jacked up. But I want to respond to Chris because I agree with a lot of stuff he said. He said a lot of truths. Apple probably did know this was an issue, even though a lot of people probably tested the iPhone with the case in the field. any quality control group is probably going to catch this. They're going to look for reception issues based on how you're handling the phone, especially if you have a new design where the antenna's on the outside. They knew about this. They knew about it. And to get a case is a solution is the truth, but it's not what people want to hear. To say hold it a different way is the truth, but it's not what people want to hear. People want to hear, oh, we'll fix it in a software update. I don't think that's going to happen. But notably, I'll say this: I haven't experienced a call drop, even with no bars. I've been on AT&T a while, singular, and even when I have no bars, I have the best phone calls. When I have full bars, I'll have a drop call. I never rely on the bars. So I'm hoping, and I've seen some people do some tests where the phone actually drops a call when they hold it this way. But I have yet to do that. And you really have to hold it tight. You really have to squeeze it. And I don't hold my phone like that. I hold my phone in my left hand, but I don't hold it like they're holding it. And that shouldn't be the problem. I agree with Chris when he says you shouldn't have to think about it. But like I said, this happened to me 10 years ago. I didn't think about it, but when I was aware of the problem, I adjusted the way I held the phone pretty simply and pretty easily. And it wasn't a big deal. That's the thing that's killing me, is that it's being blown out of proportion. The phone is great. The iPhone 4 is a great phone, and there's very little wrong with it. And I think there's a lot of sensationalism going around it with blogs and stuff like that. If you mention something's wrong with a brand new iPhone, you're going to get a million hits. I think that is the motivator behind this. That's why people were looking for every little detail, every little thing. The yellow spot thing, I can understand. That was huge. I was like, well, I looked at my phone. I don't have any. But if they evaporate, it's a non-issue. But the reception thing, come on, guys, you're reaching. I really think you're reaching. So Steve Jobs' response was tactless. It was to the point. It's not what a PR representative would say. And if you look at Apple's official response, it was a lot more verbose, a lot more. It was just easier to hear and take in. Whereas Steve Jobs was like, get a case or hold it different, which is the truth. He didn't lie. I don't understand the problem. He didn't lie. It's just the reason I don't understand the problem because I'm the same way. When it comes to the truth, I just tell it. If it hurts, I'm sorry. But, there's a certain way to do it. You can be tactful and things like that. So Chris, I agree, and I disagree in some areas. I mostly agree with Chris because he's right. From a consumer perspective, you shouldn't have to think about it. But the problem is not with Apple. Let's get that straight. The problem is not with Apple. It is a shortcoming of cellular technology. That's just the way it is. And to look beyond that is, I'm not saying Chris is looking beyond it, but for a lot of people to look beyond that, you're really shortchanging the situation. You gotta consider that this is a cellular problem. This is a problem with cellular design, and apparently the FCC is making a lot of people put the antennas on the bottom now for radiation purposes or whatever. I don't know why they're doing it, but it's a much bigger issue in terms of scope than Apple. And it seems like the microscope is on Apple, and I don't think that's fair to them, especially since the phone is so great. And I think Chris agrees with me that, this is probably, I haven't posted my review yet, but so far, this is probably the best phone I've owned. And I've owned a lot of phones. So there's a lot right with this phone, and it's kind of disheartening to see little things like this get all the attention in terms of, what's going on with the iPhone. Oh my goodness, if you hold the phone wrong, you'll drop calls. Anyway, this is Bwana from Bwana.tv, my response to the current iPhone issues. And I respect Chris Pirillo a lot. I respect this opinion. And I really think it's blown out of proportion. That's my opinion. And and Chris was right. It's not going to stop him from loving the phone. It's not going to stop me from loving the phone, and I seriously doubt that it's going to stop a lot of people from buying it. If anything, the negative press is going to prompt more sales. That's my theory. I think the more you talk about the iPhone, the more people are going to want it. That's just my theory. Anyway, take care, guys, and hopefully I'll be able to do more car videos now that I got this great iPhone recording with the front-facing camera. All right, guys, bye.